In this video, I was asked the question, can you beat Fallout 4 as Piper? So let's get to it. This video being suggested by La Persona 843, and this run entails a few key things. I must be Piper for obvious reasons, her being my fave reporter from Diamond City, but without further ado, let's begin. Starting again in Sanctuary, I crafted Piper to the best of my ability, using to a degree a video I'd found, made 7 years ago, but I used it to the best of my abilities. I got her as close as I could to the real thing. Having done that, I awaited the arrival of the Vault Tech rep, having a menial conversation with him and setting my name, that of Piper Wright. And now let's get to my stats. Well, Piper does have her own stats outlined on the interweb, but that includes over 58 points, which I don't exactly have the facilities to access at the start of the game, let alone the fact that I'd have to level up about 20 odd times just to put it in. So for that end, I put the specials into what I thought I could do as close as I possibly could and actually help me for the run. That being a 6 in perception, as she has an eye for a story, a 6 in endurance, as she will run into a fight, no questions asked, a 4 in charisma, as I want to slowly level it up myself as her learning the trade of journalism, and to top it off, a 5 in intelligence for XP and a 5 in agility, as she can be quite nimble. That all being said and done, I attended to Sean, the world ended, and we became frozen TV dinners once again. Being let back out into the vault, I said my goodbyes to Nate, and I was off to find a story. To let you in on a point, I will be blending together the Soul Survivor's story and Piper's, so to put it here, she is the journalist from before the war, looking for a story, the big one, on the Institute, along with her son Sean, for good measure. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. I still have to escape the vault. To do so, I ran all the way through to the overseer's room, grabbed myself the 10mm pistol, the pistol being my sole weapon for this run, and as it is Piper's main weapon when you have her as a companion as well. So putting it to use immediately on all the roaches in the vault, I looted up all the ammo I could scrounge, and found my way out of there. Now I only had a single location in mind, so I started to make my way through Sanctuary, through Abernathy Farm, and past Drumlin Diner, where I put my charisma to the test to resolve a dispute between Wolfgang and Trudy, buying up some ammo as I was there. I then continued past Cambridge into Boston, where I heard the cries of a settler coming from Hardware Town. Now, Piper being a seasoned wastelander, she knew the ruse, putting the pistol to use and creating a nice pop art from her skull. Moving inside, I excavated the raiders. It still was not an easy fight, as I had got a bit full of myself going straight for Demo. Luckily the tank was not that bad because I used my sneaky corner tactics and some stimpaks, and he came down like all the rest. Looting up the place, I also grabbed some green paint for Abbott later, and got out of there. Finally at my destination, I walked over to the gate to see my doppelganger having a shouting match with Diamond City's Akiri. As you do. Both of us banged our heads together, where we were able to get inside, then defending the press with her against the mayor, who is against freedom, which I stand for. Then promising to do an interview with her, I asked around for help finding my son. I then finally found someone who would actually help me, after it taking a while, it being Nat, who was Piper's sister, so it made sense that she actually helped me, pointing me in the direction of Nick Valentine's detective agency. First though, I did the interview with my twin about the vault, and I had my in, immediately asking her along for the ride, yoinking her clothes. I now suited up, and we were in business. I was now Piper, fully realised. Following the lead I got from Nat, we went around to the detective agency, learning from Ellie that Nick was in a slight predicament, so in search of my son and the story, I was off to save him. The walk to Park Street Station went off without a hitch. I was slightly worried for the battle to come, as I was only level 4, and this is the earliest I'd come here, other than my first playthrough, having flashbacks, as it was with Piper as well, and I got absolutely abused. But thankfully I had quite a bit more time on the game by now, so my worry was for nothing. With Piper running distraction, me, Piper, used the tight cover to my advantage and pick off the triggermen in the first room, and with another reason I came here so early being a source of 10mm ammo, as everywhere else in early game doesn't really have it, so I would be out of luck, and also grabbing the pistols themselves as they also gave ammo. The next section being just as easy, given I did have to be careful as the press uniform was not good damage resistance, but with perfectly timed level up and it was golden, picking them all off, and Piper amazingly was a beast as she also managed to clear the shop very easily, which was new to me, as when it comes to companions in this game, they are usually dog shit. But anyway, onwards from that, it was more of the same until reaching Valentine, where I put down Nemo, clapping him in vats, and him crumbling down. Grabbing Nick and explaining the situation, the three of us were then fighting our way out, all the way to the back of the vault, collecting ammo on our way until we reached Skinny. Exhausting the friendly option quite quickly, I mind you, we opened fire, and it went surprisingly well. I don't know why, but considering the hardships it took me to get here, I just do not think it would go. I didn't think it would go so well, but in the end, Skinny went out in glorious fashion, and we got out of there. Discussing the next steps with Nick, I returned to Sanctuary. This may seem quite abrupt, but I wanted to go save Preston, so there. In doing so, I ran down to Concord, made short work of the raiders both outside and inside the museum, as they were devised to be dealt with in the early games, and I was a bit higher level with a boost of my 10mm pistol, having the gunslinger perk and upgraded it as Sanctuary just moments ago. Making it to Preston, I got him to yap his story and his plan. We got back outside, getting to work. I immediately put the fusion core in the power armor and got Piper to get in it, also having her use the laser musket. I allowed this as she's not going to do much, as you're about to see. I was also able to pick off the raiders from the rooftop, using a very interesting way to get down, so luckily I'd cleared most of them out before mating with a Deathclaw. I was able to get him to low health through his starting animation, whittling him down to half health on the dot with a VAT crit. But I then had to run for dear life. But with both Preston and Piper on its arse, I was able to put it down with one final bullet. Then getting Preston to go to Sanctuary, I got Piper to leave the power armor and return there. Building up the place for Sturges, I'd now given them a nice place to live, and now it was time to help the Minutemen out properly. Getting to work right away. To Olivia Station for the Abernathy's. Going on the offensive, Piper had some articles to write, and in order to do that, she had to get some stories, so this is that. Inside the satellite station, I began blasting my way through all of them without a care in the world. Maybe quite suicidally, as I jumped right in the way of Akak with her minigun, but Vats came in clutch, and I cleared the place out, giving her minigun to Piper, who, by the way, I had given Skinny's suit. I'll leave you with that. Getting the locket for the Abernathy's, I then raided the supply room and dipped, going further along to 10 Pines Bluff, telling them of the Minutemen support, and I was now having to go help them. That meant going on a trip to Corvega. Giving the locket to the Abernathy's, I then did just that, which was a doozy, as I ran in, shot all the raiders, all going it down in about 1 or 2 hot shots, as I socked onto every single one of them, and hit send. All of this until I reached Jared. Picking him off from a distance, my job here was done. On returning to Preston, I can now finally reveal my true intention of doing this, as I didn't want to side with the Minutemen this time round, and truthfully, I just wanted Preston's uniform. So as soon as I could take it from him, I took it and slapped it on Piper. With her now all dapper, it was time to go procure some more info for another article, this one being Covenant, before I headed back off to the main story, that is. Getting there, I was made to take the test, those with eagle ears knowing it is in fact the GOAT test from Fallout 3, so I had no fun taking part in that. Anyways, it allowed me in, so it was something. Doing some investigating, it took me no time, as I met with Honest Dan, who told me of a missing person from a destroyed caravan nearby. so doing my investigating, I asked around. After a while of talking, I was able to crack Penny. Through tactical use of charisma, she spilled the story of a compound, and through some more snooping on the mayor's terminal, I found some dark things happening here. So conversing with Dan, we agreed to meet there, and we went in. Greeted by the guards, I was able to finagle our way in, and we were given an audience with a mad scientist, who tortured people to find out whether they were simps. Now, Piper was no fan of the Institute, but killing all the simps, even the good ones, was a bit of a no-no. So the inevitable happened, and we had to gun everyone down. I then released Amelia Stockton, the captured simp, and said goodbye to Dan, only after being interrupted around 4 times, as the guards continued to file in and shoot us and distract us, but I was eventually able to kill them and finish the conversation. Piper and Piper then emerged from the sewer, and returned to Covenant, then being slightly pissed we had just destroyed their compound, so left with no alternative, a firefight ensued, Piper being especially bloodthirsty, using the minigun to gun down multiple of them. After a couple minutes though, we had killed them all, so no more innocent people could be hurt from them any longer. We then took this exact moment to have a heartfelt conversation about our past in the wasteland, and returned to Diamond City, finally putting the paint to use for Abbott, and we went over to Nick to begin the search for Sean. Speaking with Nick, we got an idea that it was Kellogg who stole my son, so having to get his house key, I may have stole it from the mayor's assistant's desk, but hey, they don't like Piper anyway, so it's no harm done. With that, we got into the house. Rooting around for a bit, I found the cigars, called on Dog Meat, and gave him a sniff, and then we were off. I will just preface here, after most encounters, I have been stocking up on ammo. I won't bring it up as much, as it's pretty boring for the run. Anyway, I fast travelled to Beantown Brewery, of which I had marked earlier, and ran straight to the fort, as I was not about to follow Dog Meat there. Waiting for him to show up, me and Piper went inside. Again, I went full force, as I had nothing to lose, and prior to this I had taken the refractor perk. For once, I was actually prepared, and the 10mm did surprisingly a good amount of damage. If I aimed for the simp's chest plates, they did amazingly. Also collecting all the fusion cells here, as I could sell them for caps later, along with raiding the armory, as it housed some well needed ammo, as I had become quite dry by this point. Coming face to face with Kellogg, let's say that and the 10mm special, also known as spamming left click, ripping him apart, stealing all his life essence, and finding some sweet info from his terminal. I made a quick pit stop off at Sanctuary to put a scope on the pistol, and then met back up with Nick. And going in, usually it's him and Piper stood there, but this time she was with me. But for some reason, she regressed to her usual spot and acted as if she hadn't just been with me today and witnessed me kill Kellogg. But hey, she is a specimen, what can I say? Coming to the conclusion of memories, Nick said to meet a good neighbour. Heading over there, Piper had a meeting with some feral ghouls. I met the mayor, who mulched out Finn. Then Piper decided she was going to pop into good neighbour with a ghoul. And I was mid-convo with Cleo, and to say I shit my pants is an understatement. Past this, I regained life and ran through Kellogg's memories, and with all the knowledge of Virgil, I was off to the glowing sea, my favourite pastime. It was no hassle, as I reached the edge of it, and I dosed myself with Rad-X and Radaway. Having hotkeyed them and Stimpaks, I ran all the way there, past all the creatures and such to the crater of Atom, with multiple rad scorpions following me in there, which I suppose was nice for Piper, as she almost got killed by some children Atom, which is what she told me after we had massacred everyone at Covenant for good measure, but hey, so it was fair game. But finally, I ran over and met up with Virgil, getting the interview of a lifetime, as he is an ex-Institute scientist. However, he gave me one better, it being an in to the Institute. I only had to grab one thing though, it being a Corsa chip, so off to get that, I went. The Corsa that I needed to kill being in green tech. So getting in, I started to make my way through the building. I stormed through, spamming the 10mm as I went. In. With all around gameplay, there is not much to talk about here. Just know, I shot everyone I saw. I did get my first death in here, as I was eviscerated by a Molotov as I became a bit too gung-ho. There's that, but the main point being I made it to the Corsa, initiating dialogue just to see how it went, though he was not very receptive, and opened fire on me. So I responded in kind with that, lock in, shoot, followed by some spam, and it was done. I grabbed the Corsa chip and got out of there. Exiting, I just want you to bask in the glory of this game. It usually looks like absolute arse, but for once, it actually looked nice. Anyways, having acquired the Corsa chip, I had one thing for it. I went to find the railroad. Jumping ahead, I gained a meeting with them, and was allowed access into the HQ to get the chip decoded from Tinker Tom. Doing that, I headed back outside to go along with Deacon in order to join up with them. And here it is. I am going to go ahead and cyber the railroad this time, as I believe it makes the most sense for Piper, and she gets to conduct an investigation in the Institute, so there's that. There's no way in hell she would not take up that opportunity, if you know anything about her. First though, I got the plans from Virgil, and then blasted off to go help Deacon. I won't go over this in very much detail, as there isn't really much point, but like usual, I headed in to the old HQ as Deacon, blasted every synth in my sight, grabbed the intel for them, and we got back out of there. Returning to the Old North Church, I formally joined up with the railroad, and we were in. Giving the plans to Tom, he got them all together for me, and I began building the teleporter and sanctuary. Having then completed this, the go-ahead was given, and I got beamed into the Institute, only being slightly off the platform, but that didn't seem to matter. And she was in, Piper. Finally, after all these years, she had access to the Institute, to gain all their secrets out in the open, to know it all. Meeting with their leader, it became apparent he was Sean, but not agreeing with his ideology was a challenge. However, I needed to stay undercover for the railroad's sake, so I agreed to go along with him, and I was given full access to the Institute. Now, going around all the heads of the divisions, I started to compile what was needed for the story of the century. Speaking with them all, I could compile it, also grabbing the cure from Virgil's mutations here, and meeting up with Patriot and Z1. I had everything in place, but Piper knew for now the story should be kept until the undercover operation could be completed. So meeting back up with Sean, he told me of a mission, so off to do it I went. First, giving Virgil his cure though. Heading over to Libertalia, I had an easy time of it, scaling the side of the boat, only just about being missed by a nuke, but once I was up there, well, I can say something spectacular happened. I generally can't describe just how, for some reason, why I found this so funny. Just the fact that I got that to look. The nuke was right in my face and just boom. Yeah, I think yeah, it's funny. But hey, on another attempt, they somehow missed again, and I was clear. Getting the recall code from X6, I got up to the top, spoke the code to Gabriel, and we all went back to the Institute. Meeting with E1 again, I helped some simps escape, and got to work for Father once again, getting all the more info on the Institute. Father then got me to go to Bunker Hill. Joining up with the Corsa, I refrained from killing him, and headed down into the bunker, part of the hill. Met with some Brotherhood I may or may not have eviscerated by a Gatling laser. Second time around, I took my time, slamming the shots into its chest, and I was passed onto the simps. Informing them I was in fact there to save them, and not to kill them, the Corsa was not too amused by this. So looking on in that, he met Simp Jesus as he passed on from this reality. I then dipped out of there and met up his father on the roof of CIT. Not being able to hold it in, Piper expressed that she gave the Simps freedom, and disagreed with his father. But this one being down to poor writing on Bethesda's part, I was still allowed back into the Institute to work for them. Well done, Todd. Attending the directorate meeting further on, I was appointed as the successor to Father, and was now off to Mass Fusion. I will gloss over it a little bit, as not very much happened. Just know, I got the keycard, jumped from the roof, got the agitator, only after taking a dangerous amount of drugs to stop myself from, combusting to all the radiation, and then fought tooth to the nail against the robots. but my 10mm being fast shooting and high damage, it was no hassle. I just had to take about every drug known to man to finish the fight against the Assaultrons, but we got through. With that out of the way, I was then given the notice that Virgil needed checking up on, so I went back, checked up on him, and that he in fact had become human again. This adding to the condominium of the newspaper Piper was planning to write. Returning to the Institute, I did some menial tasks until I ran the directorate meeting, and afterwards I was informed of an attack on Railroad HQ by the Brotherhood, so quickly I acted. Travelling back there, I warned them and got to work. The first force filing into the small back entrance, so I was able to use that to my advantage and make short work of them. Moving out to the rest of the building, it was just a matter of spam slap bullets, with the rest going down. Desmond then set in motion Red Glare, and it was all hands on deck to take down the Brotherhood. Piper participating in this, as in this context she is a railroad operative, and I believe if given good reason she would take down anyone who threatened the safety of the Commonwealth, much like she has done with the Institute. With that out of the way, I met up with Deacon and Tinker Tom, and we stormed the police station in order to collect ourselves a vertibird. Making our way through, I will show you the clip of what every encounter looked like at this point. See, as you can see, it's not very interesting, so I would tend to gloss over this. One thing is that I was able to make it to the top, taking out the approaching vertibird before they could even drop off the knights, so that was something. I also suited up Piper in the BOS garms, as we was not about to go guns blazing into the Pridwin. So hopping on the vertibird, I did the same to myself, and we were aboard. And as I suspected, Piper followed me, but we were both undercover. For once, Piper had no time to take notes, as this was a scarce mission, so planting the bombs, we both dipped out of there without getting caught. I may have made the uninformed decision to put the press uniform back on just after getting on the vertibird, and I can say they were not very happy about it, but by the time they could do any damage, the Pridwin blew up and we had a nice spectacle in the sky. Returning to Railroad HQ, it was now time to assault the Institute, and with all the research done, I had no complaints, as it was Piper's dream to stamp out the boogeymen of the Commonwealth and make it a truly free place. Getting together with Z1, we beamed everyone in, and it was go time. I ran all the way through to the main room, clapped every synth in there, and it was straight up to Father. Given he was my son, I tried to reason with him, but the evil was too far gone, so I did the only thing I could think of, and put him down, making me acting leader of the Institute. With that power, I ordered the evacuation, lifted the lockdown, and ran all the way to the reactor, slapped the bomb on it, and we got teleported out of there. My first and final act as the leader of the Institute was to liquidate it, hitting the big red button, and now we all live in a free Commonwealth thanks to Piper. Piper also now having the story of a lifetime.
The Institute's gone. Do you know what this means?
That the Commonwealth is finally safe.
Exactly. It means no more kidnappings. No more sleepless nights, terrified your neighbors plotting against you. No more fear, thanks to you. We don't have to be afraid anymore.
They don't have to be afraid thanks to us. I never could have done this by myself.
Thank you for watching. I do hope you enjoyed, and if you made it this far, consider liking and subscribing. I hope to see you again in the future. Goodbye everybody.